Yo, what's up aliens? AHEE here. So in this tutorial, I'm going to cover 10 different tips that I feel like have impacted me the most after 20 years of producing music. All right, let's get into it. All right, tip number one. I want you all to think about how sounds interact with each other. And what I mean by that, I'll give two examples here, is like, it's not just about like, what does this sound like, but how does this sound like in juxtaposition with something else? So, or how will these two things react when you add an effect to it? So here I've got two sine tones. See, they're about 4 octaves apart from each other there, but all we're going to do is add in distortion, and check this out. That's just two sine tones, you know? Explore around, like, how do things sound when you distort them together? Oh, yeah. So many possibilities. How do things react that way? Again, that's all it is distortion on there. So here's another example of how things react. And this is sort of like, I guess, giving y'all a bad example. So we've got an 808 and a breakbeat together there. And I'm going to add on this glue compressor and just listen, look at the volume and listen to it. Do you see when these hit that the volume of the break gets reduced? And then afterwards it comes back up again. So that's something like when you add on compression onto a group, it's that the volume of that 808 is hitting the threshold before the volume of the break hits that threshold. So it's reducing everything whenever the 808 hits. Because it's the first thing to hit that threshold and bring down the compressor. So sometimes, like particularly at the beginning, you just start adding on compressors and EQs and like all sorts of different effects just because you're trying to figure out and not sure how exactly it works. You're just experimenting. Sometimes it doesn't help the song to be adding in those things. So it's something to be aware of. This is something I've definitely, been guilty of, where I've accidentally done this. I'm like, why is it every time like my kick's hitting, that's ducking everything else? This is why. Look out for your compression settings, particularly on group things. And then some other things is like a bass that has like a ton of layers. Like maybe all those layers aren't contributing to the sound if they sound too similar. That's another example. And then also maybe you have too many melodies, maybe too many drum parts at the same time. Think about how everything is layered and think about the space in order to have each element shine. Because sometimes it's like we just keep on adding and adding and adding, and sometimes you want to take away a little bit and like let the good parts shine. So tip number 2 is study other people's music. And what do I mean? Like Mozart, he studied other composers' music throughout his whole career. Same with Beethoven. It's like they learn from the people that are their inspirations or the masters of the craft. Like you'll always have something to learn from someone else's music. So actually sit down and take a listen to it and study it. Not just like listening to it, but look at it. Get Span. I feel like I say this in like every video, but like use Span. I'm telling y'all, this is awesome. So I'll grab like an EQ and I'll put it in mid side mode, and then I will like cut out all like the mid content here and just like listen to the sides, just listen to the mono content here. Right in here, I'm using the new Skrillex Peekaboo Flowdown and G-Rex song, Batters. And I've lined it up here to the BPM. And again, you can see that there's like this pickup note here right before the downbeat of the drop. An example of a pickup note is somebody once told me, the sum in somebody once told me is the pickup note because the body, the body hits on the downbeat. So like, you can like learn little interesting things like that, where this phrase starts before the downbeat of the song. And that's something I learned in a lot of Skrillex's things. Definitely go check out the call and response video I did. So sometimes I'll literally just listen to the low end. So let's listen to like 200 hertz and down. And I'll actually come over here and put another track into resampling mode and just like. And you can see the subs, so you can literally see here where the kicks are and where the non-kicks are, and you can see like how much space he's left for this snare right here, and how much space is left for the kick. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, he's side chaining. I just learned this literally just now, is that he's side chaining his snare to the subs like completely. Look, there's no sub when that snare hits. That is interesting. And so you can learn so many like hidden little secrets about tracks this way. Now let's do this, but in the opposite end. Let's just listen to the high end, and I bet we could pick out like a hi-hat pattern or something like that. Resample that. So. Yeah, look at that. You can literally see the hi-hat pattern in there. You could literally pick up the swing pattern from rendering this out this way. Study! Like, okay, so get like 10 of your favorite tracks right now from other producers and just spend a whole studio session just like going through, listening to just the low end, just the high end, just the mids, just the side, just the mono content, like line it up to the grid, look at the call and the response of things. There's a lot you can learn by studying other people's music, and it's the best way to get better. It's so good. Using Span and studying music is literally the thing that has changed my career and gotten me to get better, because I can just think and see and listen and learn. All right, tip number 3 is understand the science of your instrument. So we as producers, you know, we can think that like, oh yeah, there's all this stuff inside Ableton that is like our instruments, the drums, you know, the synthesizers, like the contact instruments and yada, yada, yada. But if you think about it, ultimately, the end result always comes out of the speaker. Comes like literally these things right here. This is our instrument. This thing right here is the movement of the speaker cones. Like when you're playing live, that's what people are listening to. You know, it's not all the things inside Ableton, it's the speaker cones. So you need to know the limitations, the physical limitations, and how those things work in order to fully get the most impact out of it, is understanding the science behind speaker cones. So a example of this is sub-bass phase cancellation, which I've gone over several times, but I just want to show y'all, like, check it out. Here I've got this sine wave. It's playing 2 sine waves. And so when the curve of this sine wave, when it's going down, the speaker cone, you know, the speaker cone goes backwards, forwards and backwards. So as it's going down, you're asking the speaker cone to go backwards. Here at this middle point, it's resting in its center position. And then as you're going up, you're pushing the speaker cone forward. So you can correlate that movement with this image here. So what if you were to ask the speaker cone to go into 2 different places at once? Say if you had, let's call this negative 100 and positive 100, and this middle line is 0. So say you asked it to go positive 100 and negative 50. It would do it, because it's not a quantum object. It's like a physical speaker cone. It can only be in one place at one time. It's going to do the mathematical difference of that, and it would be at positive 50. Another way to say it, or like positive 100, and say you have just something that's slightly out of phase, and it's at negative, like negative 1. You know, it's going to bring down from your positive 100 to like positive 99, because it's got that negative 1 in there somewhere. So let's demonstrate it. So I'm going to just flip the phase of this sine wave and check this out. I'm still playing the note. It's barely there just because it's not perfectly phase canceled. Look at that. It just disappears. Oh man, because look, you can see I'm asking the speaker cone to go forwards and backwards perfectly in the same ratio, and so it can't be in those two places, so it goes to the middle. Another big thing with the phase cancellation is sometimes in big speaker systems, the sub bass are in mono. And if you have some, like even a Reese bass like this, that's like phasing like that, you see how it goes out of phase. When it goes out of phase, that's going to disappear on a loudspeaker system. So oftentimes I will fix this by adding in EQ, cutting out all the low end, and just adding in a sub. Yeah, there we go. And now it stays in phase. All right, problem solved. All right, on to the next. All right, so tip number 4. Organize. So this includes samples, your plugins, and Ableton projects. So check it out over here. You have this section called collections. You can come over here and hit edit, turn these on and off. You can also right click and rename them. I have distortion, synth section, drums, effects, instruments, vocals, and then like mixing and mastering kinds of things. I just find it so helpful and so useful to just be able to go up there and be like, oh yeah, I need this, it's in this folder. Just gets to it so much quicker. Also, a cool thing in here is that in the instruments you can see I have just like all these different instruments. Yeah, I've got Contact and other things in here, but you can see here like, oh, Rhodes, I want a Rhodes piano. So I can literally just drop that in. I've got a Rhodes. So how I set that up is, so I just go and group this and then hit the little save up here. Oh, but first I'm going to label this, and then I can save that, and then you'll see that is saved over here in your user library. Then I'm going to hit enter, and then I'm going to drag this up to my instruments, and then now I've got it saved in here. Brass, analog, right there. Awesome. You could even do this with Serum presets. So like this one I use this iPhone sub a lot, so just be able to drag and drop that in, just instantly already have the preset loaded up if it's something I use a lot. Also, speaking of Serum, I organize all of my presets inside here. So I organize it by genre, like got dubstep, mid-tempo, live instruments, and then also all of my packs. And then also I organize all of my songs by presets too. And shameless plug, definitely go check out the Signs of Life Volume 2 over on my website at aheebase.com/store. Super awesome stuff. More at the end of the video. Another thing is when saving your Ableton project, I always hit save as and do new version. So I label this like 10 tips 2, and just keep saving that way. So that way it's like, instead of saying final master, you just keep going down the numbers and you don't have to think about it. Also a huge major thing, you see how it automatically put it in this folder? I'll see sometimes with people where they'll save all of their projects in one Ableton folder. And that's no good, because if you ever want to collect all and save and share the project, it collects all and saves in these folders within the project. So if you were to collect all and save, it would collect all and save from all of your projects. So make sure that I create just like an Ableton folder and then save all of my different projects separately in their own individual Ableton folders, and then the actual project files within the project folder here. So that way then I can just I could save this and compress that and send it to a friend, collect all and save within that. And then one other thing to stay organized is organize your samples. So here I've got this one that's just like all these third-party sample packs. I've got these ones that I've made, all these different sample packs I've made. And then also I like to have acapellas. And then also here I've gone through all of my old songs and stripped out the drums from them, so that way I can just So that way I can reuse sounds I like know have worked in the past. And that is super, super helpful. It's also helping to like create my own sound, you know? And that's what people say when they say create your own sound, is like being able to use your own drums that have worked in the past. You know, like think about it like, you know, like your favorite live band. They're using the same drum kit like the entire concert, you know? Like, why not use the same drums? If they work, keep using them, you know? Something to think about there. Tip number 5 is in the concept of when thinking about mixing, I like to think of everything as volume. And this perspective, I think, is going to just like change how you approach your mixing. I think Steve Duda talked about this in some interview, and it's taken me like 10 years or something like that to like fully understand it. So think about this. When mixing, you know, you're using EQs. That's just volume in different parts of the spectrum, whether it's the highs, the lows, the mids, the sides, whatnot. Compressor, that is just controlling how loud something can get. You know, limiter works in a similar way, but with the ratio just all the way up. Clipper, again, controlling volume by clipping it off there. And then even check this out, just like a saturator. When you're adding drive and distorting things, you're just adding the volume of the high end. It's all volume. It's all volume. It's all volume. And that's what's so trippy about it. And so why this is important is that it allows you to think like, oh, what does this need? Does it need more volume in the high end? I can either EQ it, I can add distortion, some saturation, both different ways of bringing up more high-end content. Erosion, again, another good high-end content kind of thing. But also, it's important to think about the volume of all the elements in your track. Like, in your track, is it that, you know, you need to bring up the volume of this drum? Like, instead of just compressing it to, like, get it louder, maybe you just need to turn the gain up, and it's that simple. Or maybe you just need to turn it down. Or, you know, it could be on here as well, over here, this section. Sometimes in the beginning stages of producing, or any stage of the producing, sometimes it just feels like adding on more and more and more is like the answer, because we think, oh, if it just needs this, or it needs that. But sometimes it just needs less. It just needs to be itself and just have the right volume ratio. And so it's a different way of approaching mixing. And like, maybe you don't need all these different compressors and EQs on every single group. Maybe just the sound is fine as it is if it was just brought up, you know, to be equal with the things that it's being juxtaposed with. Or maybe it's an element that needs to be brought like way back in the mix, you know, and just be like a subtle texture. Volume is your greatest mixing tool. And so to recognize it as such will change how you approach all of your actions, not only in your mixing, but also in your songwriting. So I'm going to make this a 2-part series. This video is getting a little long, and I want to keep it short for the algorithm and also to not bore you guys. But I'm going to come back with part 2, so don't forget to like and subscribe. Stick around for part 2. And then also, shameless plug of go to aheebase.com/store. This is my new website, Gumroad. I still have all my stuff up there, but they changed their policies recently and are taking like a huge cut, and it's just like, it's really messing with me. So I made my own website with my team, and everything is up on here, plus some exclusive content with the Science of Life Volume 2 and the bonus content, and also this new free bundle, which includes 4 of my magic racks, 5 of them here for free. Go download that. There's tons of awesome stuff in here. The rave stabs, I've been just using the heck out of those things lately. I use all these different ones inside the Magic Rack Volume 5. Definitely check out the demo videos for those things. Lots of good ratings, and I've just been, as I've been touring, I've been meeting so many of y'all, and like it's so cool to hear like how it's like leveled up your productions, and I love that, and I love that for y'all, and let's keep doing it. AHEE's Magic Ableton templates, a lot of y'all have talked about those. It's really up-leveling your stuff, and also some really good Serum presets. But yeah, the Magic Racks though. Oh, also go get this. This is free, the frequency chart. This should be just one of my top 5 tips, is just like have this thing available at all times, because you can see all the frequencies and all the correlated with all the notes there. All right, I will see y'all in the future. Subscribe for part 2. Peace, y'all.